Welcome, everyone. Of course, my name is QUICKSILVA, and I'll be your moderator for today. Thank you for being here today as we discuss the go-go music documentary, The Beat Don't Stop, the origins of Washington, D.C.'s indigenous music and its profound impact across the years. We are celebrating Black Music Month, and it's also appropriate to highlight go-go music, which has served as a platform for African Americans to elevate and address issues such as gentrification and class struggles. And the music has been critical in shaping movements amid a rapidly changing cultural landscape. This conversation is especially important today as we deal with a pandemic and the current state of race relations in our nation. All topics that have captured the public's attention so intensely that we are trending story about it almost every single day, and we deserve so absolutely. Now, before I introduce the panelists, let's take a look at the Beat Don't Stop trailer.
Go-go was sort of a lens to be able to tell that bigger story about race and cities.
The drum is freedom, freedom of speech and freedom of soul.
Go-go has been systematically muted by the government for decades.
You're calling someone's culture a nuisance. Ooh, that's trouble.
And what you don't do is cut my go-go off. They're like, what are you doing?
All right. Now I'd like to introduce this stellar lineup that we have today as we help discuss The Beat Don't Stop, go-go music and the power of its platform. Let me start in order. Of course, none other than a great friend of mine. I've known this guy. He is legendary. His name is Big G from the Backyard Band.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your boy Am1, Big G Glover from the Backyard Band, true Washingtonian, Uptown Washington, D.C.
We love you, Big G. Of
Love
course,
you
up
back.
next, our panelist, the lovely April Ryan, who's a CNN political analyst and White House correspondent. Hello, April.
Hello, thanks for having me. I can't wait to discuss and delve into all this good topic.
Absolutely. Up next, another great friend of mine by the name of John Murray, who's a media correspondent.
Hey, I'm John Murray, everybody, pop culture expert, TV host, and a guy who loves this region like no other.
I can vouch for that, John. Up next, he's another legendary in the DC world. His name is Bo Sampson, who happens to be the music executive and co-executive producer for The Beat Don't Stop. What up, Bo?
Oh, Samson, I'm here, baby. Let's get it going.
I've known that man for a very long time. Up next, she needs no introduction, Dr. NATALIE HOPKINSON, assistant professor in the doctoral program in Howard University's Department of Communication, Culture, and Media Studies.
Thank you so much for having me to talk about one of my favorite topics in the world, which is go-go music.
Absolutely. Of course, our next panelist is a guy who has been beyond active on and off, as I love to say, in real life when it comes to go-go. His name is Ron Moten, community activist and Don't Mute DC co-organizer. What up, Mo?
What's up, bro? It's a pleasure to be here with these distinguished panelists. As we know, negative things happen when positive people do nothing. And right now in our country and in the world, we have a lot of people doing something.
Mo, if you can't tell, Mo gonna speak today. All right, up next, of course, this is another great friend of mine, and she is absolutely amazing on radio, and she's been very vocal about making her voice be heard. Vic Jagger, Radio 1 personality. What up, Vic?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm born and raised in DC, true Washingtonian. My family was born and raised here, and shout out to Southeast.
Make sure you say Eve with an F, Southeast, Southeast. That's right. All right, up next, another great friend of mine. This guy's been legendary in radio from Baltimore to DC and worldwide. Big brother Konan. What's up, brother?
Quick, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Born and raised Washingtonian. Been going to go-go since I was a teenager, man, sneaking in, helping Chuck at Howard and all that stuff, man. So I'm happy to be a part of this.
Absolutely. We also have a special guest joining us later, and I'll announce that special guest a little later. But first and foremost, I want everybody briefly, if you can, in your own words, share your personal experience with go-go music and tell us like your most memorable go-go experience. And I'm gonna start as my most memorable go-go experience when I first came to Washington, D.C. On the radio. It might have been 2002 or 03. And I went to see Rare Essence at, it was either the Legend or the Magic Q. I can't remember what club it was. And what made me fall in love with go-go is because I'm born and raised in Baltimore, but I play the drums. My first love before radio and DJing was the drums and piano. So when it comes to live music, I always say you can't appreciate live music until you see it live. It's different hearing it on the radio or on TV, but when you go to an actual go-go, and when I saw Rare Essence play and I'm watching the guys on the drums and the cowbell and the piano and the guitar and White Boy on the mic, I was like, this is amazing, because as a host, I love the call and response. But then the icing on the cake is when I saw Big G and Backyard Band for the first time. And when I tell you it changed my life, because, we were actually at a homecoming. I think it was Eastern Shore, Big G. But I was a DJ and Backyard was performing. And just to watch them command the crowd and to see G, it felt like everybody was looking at him, just praising him as a god, like, and it was just like, when I say, I remember like it might have been 20 years ago, but I still remember that moment like it was yesterday. But Big G, I salute you, and to everybody else that's been a part of go-go. It has definitely changed my life because I see the impact. But first, we're gonna go to Big G. Since I'm talking about Big G, you go first.
My first love of go-go was my big brother. My sister used to just play the music at home. My mom would get off work, cook fish every Friday, just be playing all kind of music. But right in my neighborhood of 14th Street, right there, Urban Street, you had the bands every Saturday, right on the basketball court, right where it's across from Target and all that stuff is fixed up now. That used to be Woolworth right there.
Right.
And the Waffle Shop on Park Road, the bands used to perform every Saturday right there. But my first experience, like I used to watch the band sit there on my bike. But when I heard Junkyard, that's when I really fell in love. You know what I mean? That sound, because we were little kids and we used to always try to play on the buckets, try to mimic Junkyard. But like we used to hear Chuck, like I Need Some Money. That was one of the biggest records that I first heard. Like, if I ever get my hands on the dollar again, I'm gonna squeeze on it to the Eagle brand. So they used to always just play it in the radio, play it. You know what I mean? And I fell in love with it. And then I wanted to be in the band. So that was my first time experience. Well, my first experience, I think, was that right there.
Gotcha. April Wine, I'm coming to you next. Tell us about your experience with go-go.
So Quicksilver, just like you, I'm from Baltimore, born and raised, we're into house music. But right. So there's, Baltimore, DC, few miles apart, but the different music genres are just polar opposite. Yeah. But when I attended college, Morgan State University in the 80s, and when they turned on, when you were when they had the club or whatever on the campus, and they started playing that go-go. I mean, I'm telling you, the Washingtonians came off the wall. I learned how to go-go. I was like, it was the best thing. Yes. And I was like, what is this? I fell in love.
In the pocket and lock it.
Yeah. How about that? I fell in love with go-go. I fell in love with Junkyard. It was amazing. Chuck Brown, I never forget, interviewing Spike Lee a couple of years ago. We were talking about the HBCU experience. He said, yeah, do the right thing, right? And I said, not do the right thing, school days. And I said, yeah, school days. And first thing he said, EU. And who doesn't do the butt now? Everyone does the butt. Even if they don't know about go-go, everybody knows about go-go. But the butt is now synonymous. EU is now synonymous for the world, as well as Chuck Brown, as well as the Junkyard Band. Go-go is something that it's so grassroots. It's something where you feel at home, even if you don't, it draws you in. And I am now more go-go than I am house.
Understand.
I don't know why, but it's something about it. It's something about that DC vibe. And it's so grassroots, but it's also something that's so empowering. And I guess we'll talk about that a little later on.
I'm going to keep it with the ladies. Vic Jack, tell us about your first experience with go-go.
Oh my gosh, what? Okay. I think about three things that really stick out. When I was growing up as a young kid, of course, introduced to Trouble Funk, EU, Rare Essence. I fell in love with Junkyard. That's like my favorite. I love you, G. That's Junkyard is my favorite. that takes me to Morgan State. I went there my first year out of high school, and I remember everybody was just like, it seemed like everybody was from uptown that was from DC at Morgan. And so they're like, we're gonna go see Backyard coming up here. And I was like, for real, let's go to the Go-Go. So we're at the Go-Go in Baltimore. And that was just like crazy to me to see how many people from different places, because we were in college, you have people from New York and different places like, oh, we wanna see what this is about. Mm-hmm. And so taking them to the Go-Go was actually super fun. And the last thing I remember, you know, growing up, we were not old enough to go to certain Go-Go's, and especially to see Red Essence. And so I knew as soon as I turned 21, I was gonna go to Club U to see Red Essence. And it was like our rite of passage, like, oh, we're gonna go see Essence. And so it just made us feel good to, before I started going to the club, and I'm talking about the bougie clubs and all that in DC, straight Go-Go. I didn't know anything about clubs. I was always in the Go-Go. So it's in my heart. I'm born and raised here.
Gotcha. Absolutely. I'm going to stay with the ladies for a minute and come to the fellas. Natalie Hopkinson, your first experience with Go-Go.
So my experience with live Go-Go, because as you said, that's the really only real experience, is when I was a reporter for the Washington Post. I was writing about the arts, and I was at the Hot Shop, which is an all ages club on Route 5 in PG County, Maryland. And TCB, Bounce Beat Band, Fatal Attraction, all these people were playing. And I had, as somebody who grew up listening to hip hop, I had never seen anything like that before in my, I mean, the kids were like literally flying through the air, and they had this beat your feet dance. They were squaring off against each other. Everybody was getting all sweaty, and there was a, bandana. I mean, I had never seen any sort of energy like that. And actually, I've never seen any energy like that since. So that was my first experience with Go-Go. And I've been, went on to do my doctoral dissertation on Go-Go music, and, gotten a chance to work with all these good people like G and Ronald Moten. And my appreciation for that live energy has only grown over the years.
Absolutely. All right, John Murray, coming to you next, John. Your first experience with Go-Go, your most memorable experience, might I say?
So I was originally born in a small town called Warrenton, Virginia, a little country town about maybe an hour out of DC. And we moved into the DMV closer when I was in middle school. And I remember, I was a latchkey kid. I couldn't wait to get home to come and watch the only black cable network at the time and watch the various music video shows. And at that time, EU's Debut was really coming out and connecting in an international way. And I was so hyped because it was like my real first introduction to Go-Go. I had my first friend in the neighborhood when I moved into the Bailey's Crossroads community where we live was Tahita Kareem. And she was a DC girl whose dad had moved her out to the suburbs. And so she knew about all the bands. She used to love Rare Essence and Lockett. She loved JYB. And so my first Go-Go, we got fake IDs. I don't know if I should be telling that. We got fake IDs and went to a Go-Go because I had to experience the hype that her and everybody that was connected to her was talking about it. And it was great, finally going on to an HBCU. I went to Norfolk State, and we would have these parties called sweat boxes. And the parties in themselves were hype, but it was something about when the Go-Go would hit and everybody from the DMV would just go crazy. and we were especially hyped when the bands would come down to Norfolk and play for us and stuff, because we felt like we had home at school. So, that was my introduction to Go-Go. It's been great to really see it transcend and cross the globe the way that it has. And I think that even though that there are so many cities and states that have music that are reflective of their region. Memphis has the blues, Chicago and Baltimore share a house. New York also has the reggae thing. I don't think there's any sound that's more distinctive than Go-Go, and you can't say DC without saying Go-Go. They go hand in hand with a little mumbo sauce on top.
Big facts, big facts. Bo Sampson, your most memorable experience with Go-Go.
Well, I first fell in love with Go-Go. I went to Bowie State College, Carroll High School, and the thing that made me fall in love with Go-Go, the honeys would be at the Go-Go. So the honeys are the ladies. So I mean, you know, that was what we were trying to, you know, follow other than the go-go, the ladies. But anyway, one experience that I really remember is at the RSVP. Chuck Brown was recording his live recording at the RSVP. And that is a historical recording because, you know, everybody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to participate. It was like, you know, you were in the recording, you know, shout outs, holding your name on a postcard so Chuck could call your name out. So, you know, I mean, go-go makes you feel good. That's one thing I like about it. Nice. And the fact that I'm from DC, love the Redskins, go-go is first, but the Redskins might be next.
Hey, we about to kick you off the panel for mentioning that, but we're not gonna hold you alive.
That message.
All right, up next, Big Brother Konan. Your first experience with go-go.
Man, go-go's been in my life since I was a kid. First time we heard Bustin' Loose on the radio, my father was playing it, and from Bustin' Loose, that was Chuck Brown's first song that went national. And after that, all these go-go bands used to play outside before they found venues. So up at Emory, on the playground, Congress Terrace, Reyes used to play outside. Mass Extension used to play over in Northeast. So everywhere that there was a go-go, I was there. So with Trouble Funk and all these other bands, Hot Cold Sweat, I mean, you name them. There was Petworth. Everybody's area had their own band. Air Raid and all these guys. So me, I was just hopping from go-go to go-go because after Bustin' Loose, that was it. I was catching the bus and walking, you know, because everything was in close proximity. Yeah. You know, and walking in the city is a lot easier than when you live in the county or something like that. But all those bands back then, there was so many bands and so many options. So my first experience was just being able to get all the bands to play outside for free before they started finding venues. And then the venues that was even better because it was indoors. So, you know.
All right. Thank you so much, Big Brother Konan. Last but not least, I got Ronald Moten. Go-go. Your most memorable experience with go-go, Ron?
So it's a couple of things. As a child, I remember my mother playing like Trouble Funk. So she would play Drop the Bomb over and over and over again because the sound that they had was like crazy, right? And she also used to play Shake It Like a White Girl and EU Freeze. So those were her favorite albums. She would play them over and over again. And then as a teenager, my tribe was the Gangster Chronicles. So we would go to the Go-Go's, like we were from Uptown, Alley Cat, the Domu Brothers, all these brothers, we were from Uptown. And I would go there with these brothers and we might be 50 deep, but by the time we get to the Go-Go, we have 200-300 people following us in the train and we going around the crowd saying Gangster Chronicles, but we having fun. Everybody's getting their name called out. And it was just like, it was so DC, right? It was so us. It was so Chocolate City. So that was like the climax to me of go-go when it was not what everybody, the perceptions it was given a go-go, but it was like people came together. And also it was like when you had, to me, men who understood what they were, if they had a problem, they used their hands, they didn't use guns.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's, you know, what I remember. And then the last thing I say was Leroy, who played with Chuck Brown, was a good friend of mine. And when he took me backstage at the Masonic Temple, and I started going back there with Chuck Brown at an early age with The Godfather. And I tell people, what did Chuck do before he hit the stage? And people are like, I don't know. I say, well, you wasn't back there with Chuck because before Chuck hit the stage, he always got some Remy and a lemon and drunk it before he hit the stage. So you would, if you was backstage with Chuck, you would have known that.
Big facts. All right, man, I'm gonna go back to Big Brother Konan for a second. Anybody, we're just, of course, talking about The Beat Don't Stop. Konan, you hosted the first daily radio show in the country dedicated to go-go music on Radio 1's station WOL-AM. Can you share what motivated you to use your platform to launch this sound on radio? And what was the reaction you received from your listeners? And we got like 2 minutes for this one.
All right, well, Miss Hughes and Alfred took a chance on the Go-Go show and, you know, gave us that platform. And one of the things about that at the time is that Go-Go didn't have an outlet.
Right.
No other station was playing Go-Go, not at the time, not any of the FM stations at all. So it was easy then because James Funk, or some of these people, little Benny, they could just pull up to the radio station, give me the record hot off the press, or like downstairs in my basement right now, I still got all the PA tapes. We used to play PA tapes. I used to go in Chucky Thompson's basement when he was looping 45s and stuff, and we would take PA tapes and trade them and stuff. But to have the platform at the time was great because Trouble Funk, Dyke, Tony, they would come by, Max Kidd would come by, bring records, and everybody got a chance to get their record played. Mo from Junkyard would come by, Sugar Bear and I used to hang out, so he'd be like, yo, we in the studio working on something, man. I need you to get this tape when we finish, because we would do tapes. We would play tapes on the radio before the records because they would have that acetate, but they had to take it to go ahead and get it done.
Right.
So, I mean, just to be able to have the platform at the time was a blessing, and to watch radio go from where it was when we started in the 80s to see go-go now on radio on the regular is a great feeling, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, big brother Konan. I'm coming to NATALIE Hopkinson next, if you don't mind. You said in some ways go-go is a bigger success story than hip-hop. Can you please explain in 3 minutes or less?
Yes. You know, go-go is all because came about at the same time. People always compare it to hip hop because they both came out in the 70s, basically parallel. And people talk about go-go in terms of it, the thing that didn't make it. But I think what I talk about it is the way that it did make it, which is being a Black-owned collection of Black-owned businesses that are for us, by us.
Facts.
So with hip hop, jazz, those are Black music forms that got commodified and gotten taken out of the communities. And so, you know, go-go is it's really successful in that way, and that, you know, it is a community art form. All the money stays here, is circulating here, and that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I agree 1,000%. Up next, I'm gonna go to Vic Jagger, Miss Southeast. Have you noticed that go-go has inspired any other musical genre and any other artist?
I mean, of course.
Exactly.
There are so many different artists, and I feel like even if you listen to certain songs and you'll hear like the drum beat or whatever, and we'll be like, dang, that kind of sounds like a go-go song, or it could be go-go. And so you know that our music has influenced it. I mean, you can go back to Jay-Z, you know, when he heard Rare Essence song, and then all of a sudden, you know, we're like, hold on now, Jay, what's happening? You know, you can go back to Salt and Pepper, Jill Scott. So there are a lot of different artists who have, and we welcome that because we love Jill for that reason. We're like, okay, Jill, I know you're going to show love to DC. I know Erykah Badu is going to show love to DC when she comes to the show. She's going to have a go-go set. And you can look at a lot of the go-go bands who have played with different artists, whether it's Anthony Hamilton, Raheem DeVaughn, even Wale, who took go-go music and made it, well, not made it, but put it on a main platform in hip hop as well. Mm-hmm. And got a lot of people like, oh, what's that sound? And he represented for us. So yeah, of course, it has influenced a lot of artists.
I can elaborate. So I remember the first time I heard LL Cool J rock the bells. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, damn, that sounds like go-go. Like it's crazy because like you said, that sound just sounds like we know the drum patterns, we know the beats. I'm going to Big G up next. Of course, Anwar, Big G, my guy, you've experienced success nationally as both a musician and actor. How did you find, like, how did you get your start in go-go? And how would you describe the evolution of go-go since you started Backyard Band 100 years ago?
Oh, man, well, go-go, I got my start, like I said, a little kid, man, just like Konan said, like, the bands used to play, like, on the basketball courts. I was a dusty little kid riding on my bike, 14th Street, behind the Black Hole. So our neighborhood go-go was a celebrity hall. And I used to take Foot's drum equipment inside the Black Hole, take Mickey's stuff, go-go Mickey stuff. And me and Mickey had these talks all the time. I used to take the equipment inside and try to hide until they start playing, and then come out. And there was a guy, Mo know what I'm talking about. There's a guy like old Otis on Martin. His name was Chief. And he had these big glasses with the belt with the kid chasing me out. Get on out of here. It chases out the go-go. But and I started my own. I want to start my own band. We had a band around Morton Street, and we had a band around 14th Street called Bedrock, and then we had Mighty Young Ones around Morton Street. And then we broke that off, and I was in love with Junkyard, so we started Backyard just from the name Junkyard. And it just elevated, man. We just kept going and fell in love with the music and just wanted like this just to be in the band. Like I tell all the youngers now, it's not just about the fad and want to be around the girls. You got to really love the music. I fell in love with the music, and that's why I'm still here with it.
What year did
you know what I mean?
So
we started Backyard about 88, 89. Yeah, so that's why that shoe, when the shoe came, it was the 88. Right. So that's what we put that together with that. But like with Backyard, man, we still moving, we still growing, and like everywhere I go. Like the last time I was in Seattle filming, the last time when I came back, I bought everybody a CD, and they still play it to this day.
That's dope, man. Shout out Big G, man. Ramo, and you mentioned the beat don't stop, that go-go is not just the music, but it's our culture and our history. Can you expound on that just a little bit?
Well, go-go has always been a part of everything in DC, whether it's politics, whether it's activism, and whether it's the culture of the music for us, just people having an outlet to have fun. Whether it's played at the skating rings, the big parties in the hotels. I mean, go-go is DC. And like when our music and culture was attacked, it's like you attacked us. That's what they messed up at. Like they could attack almost any other thing in DC. Right. But when they attacked go-go, that's where they made the mistake. You see what I'm saying? And it was like the way it happened, it just happened at the right time. And you saw how deep and how entrenched go-go was in our music, our history, our culture, our educating, like everything. So go-go is so DC. And, you know, at some point it was attacked going back to Marienburg, because when they tried to destroy our city and culture, they had to go at go-go. They had to go at our music, and they did.
Well, I got you, Ramo, and of course you started Don't Mute DC, the movement. Can you just explain briefly what that was about?
So it's so funny. You got Bo Sampson on here. Me and NATALIE Hopkinson was meeting with him before the Metro PCS thing happened, because he was being attacked and other Black businesses were being attacked. And me and NATALIE was trying to figure out how we were going to address that. So my friend Don Campbell called me about how these people, these gentrifiers, were trying to shut him down. Well, they were shutting him down.
Wow.
And me and NATALIE was like, oh no. So that's when we did the petition. We came together and did the petition. And we called Bo and other people, and then it just blew up. And the people responded, not just in DC, but throughout the world, because what we found out, we knew it too, that everybody in every major city in America or in Europe or in Africa is going through the same thing of people trying to attack the locals' culture, history, and all that, you know. So it was just timely, just like what's going on right now in America's timely. I think DC's culture and the beat helped kickstart all that stuff. I think a lot of what's going on was kickstarted right here from the nation's capital, which also was kickstarted from our journey from Africa.
That's why we call it The Beat Don't Stop, in case you did not know, Ron Moten. Of course, up next, I'm coming to April Ryan and then John Murray for this question. How would you compare the Don't Mute DC movement with the current political and racial climate plaguing African Americans today? I'm gonna start with April Ryan first, please.
How do you compare it? There is comparison. And when you say there's comparison, it all stems from a dis-ease in the spirit. Okay. People are, and I'm not talking about COVID. I'm not talking about the disease. I'm talking about a dis-ease in spirit. And you bring in everything, every weapon you can. And if you notice in all the movements that have been chronicled in history, music played a part. You know, in the civil rights music, there was gospel. You had Harry Belafonte, the Day-O Man. You had Sam Cooke. You had so many people. And now with the movement in DC and then this current movement, you know, the movement for statehood and this current movement, it's a dis-ease in the spirit. And it's so basic. And when I say it's so basic, it goes back to, I'm going to make this happen. And I can do it beyond what they're saying that they can do. And when I say that, it takes people to be creative. And go-go is creative. Junkyard is creative.
Absolutely.
Making music out of something in that's creative. And it shows that I want to make music, I can do this. So I want statehood, I can do this. Black Lives Matter, I can do. It's just basic. It comes to the most basic sense of who you are and the most basic piece of your being. And I think about, when you talk about music and you talk about the movements before, I think about the grassroots portion of it. It took Black folks in Montgomery with the Montgomery bus boycott. There was gospel music there. It took some young Black folks at an HBCU, North Carolina A&T, to go in and get those Woolworths lunch counters integrated when they were segregated. And I look at this Black Lives Matter movement now. I mean, it took DC Mayor Muriel Bowser to put Black Lives Matter along the most expensive piece of property in Washington, DC.
Thanks.
Right, the most expensive property in Washington, D.C. And along with that is the music of D.C. Go-Go, you know, Chuck Brown, Rare Essence, Chuck, all of that. What is D.C.? Chocolate City. And she wanted the occupant on that street, I will say, John Murray. We talk about that quite a bit. The occupant on that street to see, to feel the flavor. What is the flavor of D.C.? Mm-hmm. It's Chocolate City, but it's also go-go. It's also the struggle to overcome, to survive. I'm going to make music any way I can. I'm going to make it with a paint can if I can. I'm going to make this happen any way I can. And that's what I think about the civil rights struggle, this struggle in DC, and this current struggle of just being heard in the midst of police brutality. So I think that this movement is really one of the major movements that really doesn't get enough attention. The movement for statehood is a movement that doesn't get attention, and I think that movement is synonymous with go-go.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said that any better, April Wine. John Murray, I'm coming to you right now, but I'm going to switch the question up just a little bit. What social impact, John Murray, do you see go-go having on the local community of Washington, D.C.?
Well, you know, it's funny. Your new question still is in line with what you said before, because April made a point that was so imperative, which is music has always been synonymous with most civil rights movements. Yes. You know, when we talk about the history of civil rights, people don't realize that Aretha Franklin recorded Respect as an anthem for that time. And what they also didn't know is she took a lot of her own personal finances and wrote checks to Dr. King and the people of the movement so that she was making millions from the mainstream community, but she was also financing this movement that was going to benefit the greater community. And so when we look at DC and what's happening with gentrification, with gerrymandering, with redlining, with the fight for DC statehood, go-go has been symbolic in that way, as Stevie Wonder recording the Happy Birthday song to Dr. Martin Luther King to get that bill moved into law. You know, so our music has been a part of the struggle. And so what it does is this music galvanizes people. It brings people together. So what we see going on now with Black Lives Matter, or what we see going on with I Can't Breathe, it's the same thing going on in DC. And so while we haven't necessarily seen anybody be killed over go-go music, the fight for equality for the residents of this area is just as dire. And go-go has been the soundtrack for that. You know, when you saw Black Lives Matter leading up down the street, pointing to the White House, everybody then rallied around this big pickup truck that had a go-go band in the back of it, you know? So I've been doing so many posts regarding this city embracing the whole Black Lives Matter message. And I've been using Mambo Sauce's Welcome to DC go-go song as a way to emphasize that. And so we know that music has always been a consistent part of our struggle, even back to the time in slavery where they sang hymns and Negro spirituals as a way of believing that they could overcome. And so that's the parallel that we see with this movement and the national movement. And we will continue to see music connected to civil rights movements from here on out.
Hey, John Murray, thank you so much, brother. You couldn't have said it any better. I'm coming to Bo Sampson next. Of course, Bo Sampson, we talked about the music and how powerful it has been in shaping the movements from Don't Mute DC to Black Lives Matter. Now let's talk about the documentary itself. Of course, Ms. Hughes is the executive producer of The Beat Don't Stop, and you serve as a co-executive producer. What do you think why do you think this documentary is important?
Well,
3 minutes or less.
we got to give credit to Miss Hughes and Alfred Liggins for giving us an opportunity to push the sound of the city, which is go-go, which is the official music for DC. So this documentary is going to talk about the past, the present, and the future of go-go. This documentary is so important because people have used go-go all over the world. This thing is big. People just don't understand, maybe some people don't understand that there's go-go in different types of music, but they don't call it go-go. Fantasia performs the Butt Live, Beyonce Crazy in Love, the go-go record. It's so many different angles to this thing, but we're not just talking about the music, we're talking about the culture.
Gotcha.
You know, how we live, how we work together as one, you know, and this go-go is something that makes us feel good. And in this documentary, we cover a lot of the behind the scenes things. People like Big Brother Konan and yourself and people like DJ Rico have kept the sound and made it go across the country. And this documentary is so important because, man, go-go is worldwide, man. In London, England, you go anywhere. You know, they taking a recipe from DC and putting in their you know, dish. You know what I'm saying? So I want everybody to understand we need all hands on deck. We need everybody, whether you're in the documentary or you contribute something to go-go, man, this is for the whole city. And I think that DC deserves to get some credit on something that we created and making sure that everybody knows, man, this is go-go. Big G has carried the torch, Sugar Bear, Big Tony, Junkyard. I want everybody to join together and make this go-go work, even to get out to vote, which is very important.
Absolutely.
We gotta vote, man. We don't vote, man, we gonna be in trouble.
Hey, Bo Sampson, you ain't never lied.
QUICKSILVA, can I say something really fast? But
absolutely, go ahead.
Bo made a very good point, but what people don't understand is that there are two DCs. And Bo is talking about the real DC, the residents, the city itself, not the federal portion. And, you know, when people look at DC, they look at the White House and all the federal piece, but he's absolutely right. When you look at the DC that Bo is talking about, he's talking about the people, not the politics, the people. And that's what go-go is about, the people.
Good point.
You said that.
Hey, Jack, go ahead. You want to elaborate, Vic?
I'm just saying I'm so glad she made that distinction because when you DC, it's almost like, oh, you know, the president is there, or you know, it's a bunch of politics. But people that are from here, we know the history. We know we love Marion Barry, so you can't say anything bad about Marion Barry because he was for our people and he helped. We still tell the story about when Marion Barry was giving away air conditioners for seniors, and my grandmother got one. And for years, she's like, you know, Marion Barry gave me that air conditioner. So, you know, DC always come together. People know, like, listen. Go ahead, Conan. I see.
I was gonna say, you made a good point because Marion Barry, not only did he do stuff for everybody in DC, my first job at 15 was through Marion Barry's Summer Youth Employment Program.
Right.
And on top of that, Marion Barry lived right there over on the other side of Barry Farms on Staten Road.
Why are you telling his business where he lives?
Well, we all used to be happy that the man in the hood.
And he don't live there no more. He going on to heaven, April. We can tell it now.
Right. The unique thing about the summer job program is that a lot of go-go musicians got their start with the summer job program and that Marion Barry started. So a lot of people don't know how important, and to that point, go-go needs to be funded. It's the official music of DC right now with no money. And if we're gonna save our music and culture and go-go, there's no reason why we can give an earmark to wealthy white people. We talking about, listen, if we're talking about like equity across the board during this Black Lives Matter movement, we got to support and fund our artists, our Black artists, because listen what I'm telling you all, go-go will be gone and somebody else will be playing it, right? When Black people are pushed out of DC, if we don't use our music and our culture to push for equity across the board. We don't want you to make DC official music go-go and you fund everybody else, but you don't fund go-go.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ramo. I'm so glad you said that. I'm coming to you, Natalie Hopkinson, up next. What made you actually want to be a part of course, The Beat Don't Stop documentary?
So just, I really appreciating Bo's perspective on why he wanted to do it, but I think it's also sort of like an extension of go-go itself, because I talked about it being for us, by us, that TV One, you know, a Black-owned media company is telling the story, makes all the difference. Like, we have to tell our own story. Who else is going to tell it but us? So go-go has been, there have been documentaries, there have been film, they have been trash. I can tell you right now, this is not trash. And you know what? Because it makes a difference in who's telling the story. Right. So I think it's really significant. And, you know, to Mo's point about funding for go-go, the thing about what's really powerful about go-go, and again, why I consider it, you know, one of our most precious Black musical jewels, is that if you fund go-go, you take care of the artists. The artists have created all these other industries too, fashion lines. You know, you have marketing companies, security companies. You have all these people who are eating off of go-go, whether they're musicians or not. So it's really important that it gets funded, because it's kind of a metaphor for the Black experience here, but it's also a real creative economy that's been Black-owned for 40 years. I mean, it's amazing.
It kept DC going. It would be no Ben's Chili Bowl if it wasn't for go-go, because everybody left the go-go's, went to Ben's Chili Bowl, went to Florida Avenue Grill, went to Georgetown and got their outfit before. Go-go kept DC going when nobody wanted to be here. Now it's time for DC to have go-go's back.
If in case you can't tell, Ronald Moten, he really means this, because he has passion behind everything he says. I'm coming to you next, Big G. You've been quiet for a second. What does go-go, right now, we know that, Big G, you've been a part of the go-go culture for 30 years, 30 plus years. What does go-go mean to Big G, in your words? What does go-go mean?
It means my life. It's my life, my everyday struggles, my happiness, my growth, my people. Being from Washington, D.C., uptown, born and raised, this is all I know. I wake up, go-go, I go to sleep, go-go. Right. So when I see us like being shut out, like I ain't made no money in 4 months, you know what I mean? Still surviving though, you know what I mean? And it's like, I talk to musicians in New Orleans, Boston, New York, they already got 2 or 3 checks already. You know what I mean? They say, you ain't get yours yet. And also I'm an actor, no produce, no auditions are going on there, nothing. So I had a chance to move to New York or Cali. I get homesick. I can't, like, it's no place like home. It's nothing that I can do for another city that I can't do for my own city. So if you don't get the funding and things of that nature, what we really need here, we done laid in the street. We stopped, like in my era, we stopped the whole school system. We stopped school for a whole day. Banneker, Cardozo, Coolidge, Roosevelt, we laid in the street in front of the Wilson building when they stopped everything. So go-go music has been powerful forever. We've been pushing. Like I said, I learned from the old timers, and now they call me an OG. So this is my music, and this is what I do every day. I still speak. I still go fight for our rights, fight for our music. But when Bo Sanson reached out to me about this documentary, I know it was important that I had to put my piece on here and let everybody know. You know, I used to be a little wild kid, but just like Malcolm X say, don't give up on the youth. You know what I mean? We are the future. So when we push and move and talk about what we need, and you know what I mean, they put us in that little corner in that baby chair. It's just like segregation. You can only drink from the color fountain. That's how I feel right now.
Hey, I'm so glad you said that, Big G. If anybody wants to elaborate, actually, Vic Jagger, you're born and raised, you Southeast DC. What does go-go mean to Vic Jagger, the music, the culture?
It means everything. Just like G was saying, you can go to different cities and, you know, spend time there, but there's no place like home. And it's just, DC without go-go would never feel right. Like it, and our people would never let that happen. So let's be clear about that. And I think that go-go has just been inside of us since we were younger. And like a lot of people on the panel said, just over the years, it has grown. I remember going to the Met. I remember going to Club U and Bravo Bravo. And I mean, there are endless clubs in DC that have benefited and businesses that have benefited off of go-go music. To this day, if Big G said that he wanted to do a go-go in the middle of Gallery Place, in the middle of that intersection with Chinatown, guess what? You would see it just like you did when the Don't Mute DC movement happened. You will see hundreds of thousands of people down there to see him and the band. And that's the impact that go-go music has on our people. I don't care where I am. You can ask my 14-year-old son right now. He can sing Chuck Brown right now because he started him young. Like, all right, this Chuck Brown, this right here is Rare Essence. This is Junkyard. This is Backyard.
Right,
you know, listen, even Belladonna, the ladies, you know, so go-go music is here to stay and it's a part of me. So it's not going anywhere.
Juneteenth, you're gonna see something special on Juneteenth.
Somebody said they want to say.
Yeah, I wanted to build on what Vic and also Big G were saying about, you know, it's so true. He would shut down any part of the city at any time. And so that's what's also significant about go-go. You have figures like G who just last month, G and Mo they did an overnight protest at the DC jail. You know, like they were trying to bring awareness, like COVID is killing people, our people, and they were the ones taking leadership and trying to be the moral conscience of both our city and our nation. You know, so it's really important. So it just goes so far beyond the music. Like it really gets to the heart of, you know, our experience as a Black people and making sure that there's giving a voice to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just got confirmation that our special guest, Mayor Bowser, is going to join us. Mayor, are you here? There she is.
Hi, guys. How are you? I'm sorry I didn't hear the earlier comments, but I wanted to drop in and lend my support to what you're doing.
Absolutely. And somebody actually asked a question. I'm going to start with that question. How'd you pick the song that you picked to go with the Black Lives Matter movement and the Black Lives Matter Plaza?
Oh, that I have to tell you, I didn't pick that one personally, but when I heard it, I was so glad that we had Chuck Brown, Black Lives Matter, Washington, D.C. It wouldn't have been the same without it.
Absolutely. If you don't mind for a second, Meg, can you share your experience, of course, with go-go music to celebrate and preserve and protect the go-go culture? Like, what does go-go mean to Mayor Bowser?
It is ours alone. We're very proud of it. We're very proud of the artists who have come up with in go-go. We're proud of the reach that go-go has had, but we also recognize our very special responsibility to preserve and protect it. I was proud to stand with the council in making go-go DC's official music. Yes. But we know that that's a start. And I think I saw you had NATALIE on, who I've had great discussions with, and we all need to talk about how we can preserve it and preserve it in a way that we have musicians that are going to come after this generation, that we think about venues, and that we think about how it works into our entire arts and humanities culture and funding mechanisms in the district.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Mayor Bowser. Now, of course, with go-go being so popular and being the sound of Washington, D.C., can you tell me your most memorable experience like at a go-go? I couldn't imagine seeing you in a go-go.
Oh my God! Now you're making me go all the way back. You know, I'm gonna tell on myself with how old I am. I'm almost going way back, but it might be even more important for where we are right today, because I guess it hasn't even been last year. I don't remember where we were now when we were at the Blind Rhino,
right,
celebrating the council's passing go-go as DC's official music, and we had a signing. And I remember so many people saying, I know she's not going to have a go-go. The DC government is throwing a go-go. And people were just so excited about it. And even when I was there, I got to just see how affirmed people felt and free, and all the new ways that people are dancing the go-go and all the go-go artists. So that was a very present and real memory for me. Now, I'm of the age where a lot of us, I think, on the phone where our high school dances were go-go's, and they would be in gymnasiums. I see you, Mo. I see you, Mo. So everybody, would go to the go-go, and if you couldn't go to the go-go, you were very upset about that. So that's DC, and that's how we grew up, and that's how I want my daughter to grow up, knowing the music. But I know that it won't be here if we're not intentional about what we do. We have to be real serious about training musicians, about supporting musicians at a time like this. This pandemic is real hard on musicians.
Yes.
People are not gathering. We don't have big groups. They're not doing shows. So we have to think about all of those things. But we're lucky that we have a native music, and we have to do everything that we can to preserve it.
Absolutely, Mayor Bowser. While we have you here, Mo had said something earlier. We know that DC and go-go is the sound of DC, but we have to make sure we get funding. What can we do, or our audience do, to make sure we get the proper funds for go-go to keep it alive?
Well, one of my reasons for appointing Dr. Hopkinson to the Arts Commission is because the way the City Council now is funding a lot of arts and culture is through the Arts Commission, and there's some aspects of the Arts Commission that I think go-go needs to cement itself in. And so I know that NATALIE has that focus, and we all need to get behind her in that. I think there's some other things that I'm always thinking of that we can involve our institutions of higher education in. Okay. And in saying these places have music departments and arts history departments. What are they doing that centers on go-go music? And so that's another thing for us to think of. So there are lots of ideas. And so the go-go community, I know, can sometimes be disparate and a lot of different people, but what Don't Mute DC did was make it an interest group. Now, work with me now, because I do politics, right? So you may think that you're scrappy activists or music aficionados, but what you are now is an interest group. And it represents music, but it also represents the culture. And I will use that power right now, especially now, because there isn't that interest group, voting bloc, budget agitator, whatever you want to call it. It's a real thing. Yeah. And I see it. I see it.
Hey, Mayor Bowser.
People feel it. Make sure they feel it.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Real quick,
if you got 30 seconds, I seen a picture where you were actually looking down on Black Lives Matter Plaza and you had like your chest out and you were so happy. Just tell us, like, how do you feel when you looked down and you saw Black Lives Matter Plaza? Like, how did you feel at that moment when you saw it done?
Well, I feel amazing about it, but more than that, when I look in people's faces and see how they feel about it, they feel powerful. We're on MLK Avenue right now, just finishing lunch. I just went to the COVID testing site in Anacostia, so help me get the word out about that. We got to make sure our people are getting tested. It's free and it's simple. But a lady just stopped me. She's a nurse. She lives here in Ward 8, and she said, just thank you for standing up and speaking up. And then she goes, and you're so professional about it. So I like that. But more than that, it is a meeting place. It's a place where people can think, be together peacefully, protest, seek the redress from the government that we all as Americans, that's our birthright. So we're proud of that. We're proud that other cities are being bold in claiming space and using art to send the message that Black Lives Matter in this country. We're going to demand it, and we're going to keep fighting until all the systems of our government support people. You heard me say this 1,000 times. People just want a fair shot. They don't want anything special. They just want a fair shot.
All right. Mayor Bowser, thank you so much for joining us. And make sure you watch the Don't Stop. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Everybody else, we have to wrap it up in a second, but I want to give everybody a second, 60 seconds or less, I'm gonna go around the room and give your last remarks about the beat don't stop and what go-go means to you and whatever you want to say that's on your heart right now. I'm gonna start with the ladies first. April Ryan, closing remarks.
Go-go means my heart from college days, going back 20 some odd years and working in DC. But what I will say is that it is native to Washington, and you cannot allow go-go to be replaced, put on a shelf. It must survive. And you've got to be creative, working with Mayor Bowser, who is a maverick in this movement, and also working with Congress maybe to figure out how to make sure this piece of DC does not die.
Thank you so much, April Ryan. Vic Jagger, closing words.
As a Washingtonian, I will do everything I can to use my voice in the fight for go-go music. It has been a part of my life since I was a young girl. It is still a part of my life, and I love all of my go-go family, and I will continue to fight. And look, I'm always rocking DC.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vic Jagger.
In me.
All right, next lady, Natalie Hopkinson, your closing words, whatever you want to say.
So my closing words are, part of why I've, after really being amazed and sort of falling in love with the scene, and why I still continue to work in the scene, is that it really is the essence of who we are as Black people throughout the diaspora. So this is a local music, but it's also something that rings bells in places like Ghana and Nigeria and in Jamaica and Guyana, where my family are from. Like this is our Black music is our most precious resource that we have. And it's really important that we celebrate it. And I'm really happy that TV One is given the resources and this platform to allow more people to get in on the secret. To all you Washingtonians, love to keep to yourself the secret that many people Washingtonians have. I'm so happy about it being able to be shared with the world.
Thank you so much, Natalie. John Murray, you coming your way. Closing remarks, sir.
Yes, sir. Go-go isn't just a community, but it's a music that galvanizes community. I remember being a young guy on an old school morning show doing my 6-year term on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. And Chuck Brown used to come on our Fantastic Voyage. He would start a concert at about 11 o'clock p.m. And I would watch people who were 20, 30, and 40 years older than me party with Chuck until 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. And the way those people endured throughout the night and danced until they was dragged into their rooms, we as people of color will endure through these times. We will endure through Mute DC because we are a community. And when we come together, we party hard, we fight hard, and we are activists.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John. Big G, closing words, brother.
Hey, closing words. I just like to thank TV One for embracing this project. Bo and everybody for calling, Natalie, Mo, everybody for being on the panel, April, everybody. This is amazing. Like when Chuck told me, listen, son, I'm going to move on. Please don't let our music die. And I won't let our music die. I guarantee 100%. And for my girl, Vic Jagger, keep on rocking that music on your breaks with Dirty Rico. Keep on rocking because you keep it alive. Quick, we love what you're doing. Keep rocking. Love what you do, man. Just love my city to the fullest, and I will keep fighting for it until I roll over, man.
Hey, shout out Dirty Rico. That's our guy in real life, man.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I gotta say that. Much love to DJ Dirty Rico because he has been on the front lines.
No play.
Facts. Absolutely. And real quick, before I go to the next person, I got to give a quick plug because I actually played the cowbell with Big G live on the radio time, and I put that in my bio. I have officially played the cowbell with Backyard at the Go-Go. I'm going to post a video so y'all can see it. Yeah. All right, Big Brother Konan, final words.
If I had to say one thing about Go-Go, one word, indigenous. Go-Go has been there from the beginning. Go-Go has changed the face of DC from before gentrification, from 14th Street, from uptown, north, south, east, and west. Southwest, southeast, northeast, northwest. Go-Go has always been a part of DC, a part of my life. I thank all of you all for being on here. I appreciate and I'm humbled that I'm a part of this. So TV One, Kathy Hughes, Alfred Liggins, heads up, and I appreciate y'all. So all I can say, man, is that we're not going to mute Go-Go. It'll never die. From all these artists that have taken a part of our genre and our culture, like Mo said, it's here. Bo, I appreciate you. It's not going nowhere. We got it.
Absolutely. I'm coming to you next, Bo. Final words.
Well, what I want everybody to take away from this is not just, the Go-Go is going to get it started, but we trying to make DC the entertainment capital of the world. We're going to use the Go-Go to bring people to see other genres of music, because there's talent all around the world.
Facts.
I mean, you know, that come from DC. So I just need everybody to call the people in Tokyo, you know, Big G and Ron and Atlanta, all around the world, and tell them to check out The Beat Don't Stop, June 21st on TV.
Will do.
Global.
Last one, Ronald Moten, my brother. Final words.
I just want to thank TV1 for what they're doing and for the opportunity to be a part of this great project. And what I want to say is, as we are days away from Emancipation Day, we are fighting to make sure our voices are not muted, our culture is not muted, our existence is not muted, because we face COVID-19 in our own way with the disparities that are in America for some time. And I'm asking everybody to come out and join Big G on the float, Sugar Band EU on the floats, as Go-Go and the community activists come together on the 19th with Don't Mute DC and other partners to shut it down and say, we will not be muted and we will get what we deserve for the last 400 years. Yeah. And that's all we got. That's all I got to say.
Hey, Mo, and I'll give you an exclusive, man. Big G had my cowbell ready because I'm hopping on the float. I mean it. You know I'm not saying this just to say it. I'm hopping on the float, and I'm playing the cowbell with Backyard on that float. So I will be there, Ron. You have my word. Right. I'm a man of my word. If I say it, you ain't got to question it. It's a go. What I want to say to everybody real quick is that before we close up this, one thing I want to encourage and really challenge everybody is that all of us, we have voices, we have platforms, we have a lot of followers, we have people that listen to things that April and Natalie and John and all of us say. And I really want to encourage us to continue using our voices to bring about change and awareness. Because right now, like you say, we are fighting multiple things. We're fighting injustice. We're fighting COVID-19. We're fighting. But what I've noticed over the years is that all of us, we use our voices for greatness, right? And then people, we start fighting. But then once the trend goes down, we stop fighting. And I always say, even when I spoke at the Lincoln Memorial Saturday, the thing that I focused on is that we can't stop fighting until we get a conviction. We can't stop fighting until we get the rights we deserve. We can't stop fighting until everything that we do, we actually get. And we're not asking for anything that we don't deserve. So all of us, I challenge all of us to continue everything that you're doing right now to bring about change in your own circles, as well as abroad, worldwide. Because right now, we need people in positive faces, men and women that can motivate people, because everybody's looking for hope. So right now, I encourage everybody to continue using your voice to better others in your lives, and continue using your voices and your social and your platforms, even when things aren't trending. Still put the work in, as I love to say in real life. So we're going to wrap it up. Once again, my name is QUICKSILVA. It's been an honor to be your moderator for today's amazing panel. Everybody, you did an amazing job with everything. Please, everybody else, tune in to TV1 Sunday, June 21st. Put it in your calendar. I'll give you a second to pull your phone out, put the little note. Sunday, June 21st, 8 p.m. Catch the premiere of The Beat Don't Stop. And once again, we have to keep fighting because Black lives matter. And all lives can't matter until Black lives matter first.